Dear students, after studying this module, you shall be able to know about Carl Jung's theory of personality, learn the difference between personal and collective unconsciousness, identify the process involved in the development of personality, evaluate Jungian research in the light of current developments, and also analyze the role of different functions in the formation of personality. Carl Jung broke from the traditional orthodox psychoanalytical theory of Freud and developed his own separate theory of personality called analytical psychology. Analytical psychology is a school of psychology that aims at personality development in an individual and his or her ability to contribute in substantive manner to the society. For these purposes, it focuses on the personal and collective unconsciousness and their conflict in an individual's life. There has to be a balance between the various opposing forces of personality like extroverted and introverted, consciousness and unconsciousness, male and female, and thus people may achieve self-realization. As Jung's theory emphasized the role of unconscious process of personality, it is considered similar to that of psychoanalytical theory even though it differs in other aspects. Differences in Freud and Jung concept of personality are: he highlights the cultural root of personality, and the most prominent and distinctive feature of his views is that it combines teleology with causality. As compared to this, Freud stresses the infantile origin of personality. In Jung's view, there is a constant and often creative development, the search of completion, the wholeness and desire of reincarnation, whereas, according to Freud, endless repetition of instinctual themes until death intervenes. The structure of personality. Personality as a whole, or psyche, as Jung calls it, consists of a number of differentiated but interacting systems. The principal ones are the ego, personal unconsciousness and its complexes, the collective unconsciousness and its archetype. Fourth, developmental of self. Now, the ego. Ego resides in the conscious mind and comprises of conscious thoughts, memories, feelings and perception. It plays a major role in an individual's feeling of continuity and identity from an individual perspective and is considered as a center of consciousness. The personal unconsciousness and its complexes. The personal unconsciousness, this region adjoins personal unconsciousness with the ego and comprises of one's consciousness experiences that have now been suppressed, repressed, forgotten or ignored, and also of events or experiences which are too weak to make a conscious impact on the individual. The complexes. Complex is a structured group which contains collective thoughts, feelings and memories and perceptions that exist in the personal unconsciousness. According to Jung in 1934, it has a nucleus that acts like a magnet, attracting or constellating various experiences to it. For example, the mother complex. This nucleus is derived from cultural experiences with mothers in part and in part from the child experiences with his or her mother. Feelings, ideas and memories concerning the mother are attracted to the nucleus and form a complex. According to Hall, Lindsay and Campbell, 1988, an individual's thought, action and feelings are guided by the conception of the mother if he or she has a strong mother complex. The collective unconsciousness and its archetype. The collective unconsciousness, transpersonal or the collective unconsciousness, stores the latent memory traces inherited from one's ancestral past. It evolves over centuries from the shared experiences of generation of mankind. Hence, it is a universal concept devoid of an individual's personal subjective feeling. It is the inherited cultural base of the structure of personality as a whole and comprises of racial memories that are predisposition which make us react to the world in a discriminating manner. For example, humans are predisposed to fear the dark or the snakes. This is because primitive humans, the early generation, faced many threats in the dark and were victims of poisonous serpents. Consequently, such tendencies are observed even in modern humans and make one more susceptible to such experiences. These latent or potential memories depend upon inherited structures and pathways that have been engraved on the brain as a result of the cumulative experiences of mankind. Hence, the collective unconscious influences what an individual learns from an experience, and it further influences the behavior of the person. The personal and the collective unconscious two unconscious region of the mind can be of immense service to the human. Archetypes. The structural component of the collective unconscious are called by various names. Archetypes, dominance, predominal images, images, mythological images, behavior patterns. An archetype is a universal thought form that contains a large element of emotion. This thought form creates images or visions that corresponds in a normal life to some aspect of daily life situations. Archetypes are permanently ingrained in the mind of an individual as an experience that has been continuously repeated a long time. An example can be people have seen the use make its daily appear from one horizon to another for many generations. The repetitive nature of this experience was ultimately imprinted in the collective unconscious of an primordial image of the sun, the powerful god dominating heavenly body, light giving, that people idolized and worshipped. These archetypes function in a more holistic manner to make meaning out of a situation, and they are not isolated from one another in the collective unconscious. Instead, these archetypes interact with each other. It is assumed that there are many archetypes in the collective unconsciousness. Few of them are magic, birth, death, rebirth, power, unity, the hero, god, the child, the demon, and earth mother, the animal, and the old wise man. The persona. According to Jung in 1945, the persona is mask assumed to be worn by an individual to fulfill the demand of the social world and the customs, and also to his or her own inner archetypal wishes. This is the people personality, consisting of those aspects of an individual that one displays to other in the outside world, as compared to the masked personality which is present behind the social facet. Like all archetypes, this archetype came into being as people of a particular culture experience certain events. Here, humans assume a social role in response to social interaction which serve the purpose of human as social animal, the anima and animus. It is fairly well recognized and accepted that human is essentially a bisexual animal. Jung recognized the human as a bisexual animal. He proposed that every man has a feminine side to his personality, and similarly every female has a masculine side to her personality, which constitute their respective archetypes. The feminine side in males is referred to as the anima, while the masculine side in the female is referred to as animus. These archetypes, though accustomed by the sex chromosome and the sex glands, are a result of a cultural experience of males with females and females with males. It can be said, living with each other, each sex has acquired some trait or mannerism of the other. This archetype causes both the sexes to manifest features of the other and also act as collective images that motivate each other to react to and comprehend members of other sex. But if the archetypal image is anticipated without respect for the real character of the other sex, it may lead to misunderstanding and discord. Thus, a compromise has to be maintained between the need of the collective unconscious and the realities of the external world for a person to be practically well adjusted. The shadow. The shadow archetype consists of the animal instinct that humans inherited in their evolution from lower form of life. As a result, the shadow typically represents the animal side of human nature. This archetype is in control of one's perception of initial evil and become the skin or devil when projected outside. This archetypal image is also accountable for the occurrence of unpleasant, socially undesirable thoughts, feelings and actions in a person's consciousness. These may then be hidden by the facade or the suppressed into personal unconsciousness. Development of the self. The self was considered equivalent to the psyche or total personality earlier, and it was found that self was representative of humans' determination for unity. According to Jung, all the other systems are accumulated around self, which is considered the midpoint of personality. The self combines the system and the person is provided with unity, equilibrium and stability. This archetypical image can be expressed with the help of many symbols, mandala or magic circle being the major one. Furthermore, the goal of human life is the development of self, a process known as individuation. Individuation is a dynamic, complex and a lifelong balancing act whereby the person seeks to sympathize the various opposites in personality in order to become a whole, that is an ultimate integration of both consciousness and unconsciousness. However, the archetype of self does not become evident until the person has reached middle age. The attitude. Jung differentiated between two main orientation and attitudes towards the environment along the persons responsible for individual differences, extroversions and introversions. Extroversion familiarize an individual about the outer objective world, whereas introversion familiarizes an individual about the internal subjective world. Both the contrasting orientation exist in the personality, but only one of them is dominant and conscious, where the other is subordinate and unconscious. The functions. According to Jung, there are four fundamental functions that help an individual to understand his or her events in their lives: thinking, feeling, sensing and intuiting. Thinking, through making a person analyze an event in a rational and an intellectual manner. Feeling is the veil function. Through feeling, a person experiences an event emotionally through pleasure, pain, love, fear or joy. Sensing is a perceptual or reality function that produces measurable evidence about an event, and intuition is the perceiving through subliminal content and unconscious processes. It goes beyond facts, feelings and ideas to comprehend an hidden unconscious essence for an event. Feeling and thinking are referred to as the irrational function as they make use of judgment, reason, generalization and abstraction, thereby enabling an individual to search for truth in the world. Intuition and sensation are referred to as the irrational function as they use the perception of the particular, accidental and the concrete. Usually for an individual, one of the four functions is most developed while one is subordinate and deeply buried in unconscious. Interaction among the system of personality. There are various attitudes, systems and functions which make up the individual's total personality and which interact in three ways with each other. One of the three systems may fulfill the requirement of the other system. One of the three systems may be in opposition of the other system. One or two or more systems may unite and fuse with each other. Compensation can be explained by the interaction of opposing attitude of introversion and extroversion. If introversion is superior or dominant attitude of the conscious ego, then the unconscious will compensate by developing the suppression attitude of extraversion. That is, if the introversion is irritated, the unconscious inferior attitude of extraversion will grab hold of the personality and exert itself. Dream can also serve as compensatory source. Dream of an introverted individual will show extroverted features and vice versa. Similarly, the ego and the animus in a woman and the ego and the anima in a man bears a compensatory relationship to each other. Overall, the content of the conscious mind are compensated by the content of the unconscious mind. The principle of the compensations provides stability between opposing features, which stops the psyche from becoming neurotically unstable. Jung believed that a psychological theory of personality must be founded on the principle of opposition or conflict, because the tension created by conflicting elements are the very essence of life itself. Opposition exists holistically in the personality of an individual between the ego and the personal unconscious, between the ego and the shadow, between the person and the personal unconscious, between the persona and the anima or animus, between the collective unconsciousness and the persona, and between the collective unconscious and the ego. Ego can be compared to a shuttlecock which is battled to and fro according to the inner demands of the collective unconsciousness and the outer demands of the society, due to which a masked persona eventually develop. The persona conflicts with the other archetypal image in the collective unconscious, and conflict is a universal fact of being. Elements at the extreme attract each other and also oppose one another. Union of these opposites can be accomplished by what Jung called transient function. If this function operates efficiently, an individual's conflicting impulses will be united and enable the person to be happy. This helps to balance and integrate personality, the center of which is the self. Dynamic of personality. Jung perceived psyche or a personality of an individual as a partially closed energy system. He believed that the personality dynamics work on the following three principles. First is psychic energy. The energy that enables personality of an individual to work is called psychic energy. It is an expression of the biological system, which is the life energy of an organism. It is hypothetically construct which cannot be known or measured. Consequently, it finds tangible expression in the form of potential forces and actual forces, for example, willing, wishing and attending, etc. Psychic value. Value of that element can be defined as the quantity of psychic energy spent in an element of personality. A high value indicates the feeling or idea is significant enough to initiate or guide the behavior, whereas a low value indicates light energy involved to it. For example, a person for whom power is important will be highly motivated to become powerful. Next, the constellating power of a complex. The constellating power of a complex sheds light upon the unconscious value. It comprises of a number of group of items that are brought into association by the nuclear element of the complex. Example, if one has a strong patriotic complex, it means the nucleus love of one's country will predispose the persons to have new experiences associated with patriotism. These complexes do not always manifest publicly, therefore Jung gave three methods for assessing them. First is direct observation plus analytical deduction, second is complex indicator, third is intensity of emotional expression. Hence, psychic energy available to personality is generally used to fulfill two major goals. Some of it is used for the propagation of species and some to perform work which is compulsory for the maintenance of life, while the rest of it is utilized in carrying out spiritual and cultural activities. Principle of equivalence. According to this principle, if energy is spent in carrying out a certain condition, the amount spent will compensate somewhere else in the system. That is, raise in one value unavoidable leads to lowering the other. For example, if a student's interest in extracurricular activities increases, his or her interest in academic is likely to decrease. Furthermore, it also states that repressed value may be used to produce fantasies or dream. For example, de-energizing of the conscious ego is followed by energizing of the conscious. Therefore, the fall or rise in value can also depend on the incoming energy from external source and by reduction of energy when muscular task is performed from the psyche. For example, an individual becomes physically and mentally tired after a long period of work and exercise. Hence, the relocation energy establishes dynamics of personality. The principle of entropy. The principle of entropy process energy distribution in the psyche is balanced and equilibristic. It implies that if two values are of unequal power, it will be transferred from the stronger value to the weaker value until equilibrium is achieved. For example, the energy of dominant attitude moves towards inferior attitude. Though a permanent balance between the two can never be developed, the perfect state towards which the distribution of energy always endeavors, this ideal state in which total energy is evenly distributed throughout the various fully developed system is the self. However, it is difficult for an individual to reach complete entropy. Evaluative comments. Contribution Jung characteristic researches are experimental studies of complexes. It was one of his first researches wherein he studied the conjunction of psychological and physiological measures of emotions. This was done by using word association tests and measuring the changes in breathing pattern as well as electrical conductivity of the skin, which were evidence of one's emotional reaction to the impact of specific word presented in the list. Hence, he used this method for uncovering complexes in the patients, due to which his methods are used in clinical psychology. Second is case studies. This method was used to uncover unconscious material and for discovering how personality is woven together. He provides with two significant assistants to this method. First is the dream series method. Jung analyzed a coherent series of dreams obtained from a person by using the dream material and the free association. These individual dreams, when in series, gave a more holistic picture and threw light from all aspects of the dream. This method is also called the method of internal consistency and is widely employed with qualitative material like dreams, stories, and fantasies. The method of active imagination. In this method, the subject is required to concentrate his attention on an impressive but unintelligible dream image or on a spontaneous visual image and observe what happens to the image. The image usually undergoes series of changes which bring to light a mass of unconscious material. Criticism and controversies. Any theory should be empirical in nature, as Jung theory is subjective and based on religion, mythology, and philosophy. To a large extent, it cannot be verified. Furthermore, the concept of collective unconsciousness cannot be empirically tested, therefore, it has a low utility in therapy and practicality. Lastly, he employed several terms to describe the same concept, hence, he did not define terms operationally, therefore, his theory is low on internal consistency. In conclusion, Jung presented an exciting theory of personality growth and individual differences. For Jung, every person is unique and finds wholeness in different ways guided by archetype function and collective unconsciousness. However, Jung's view on evaluation are vague and inconsistent, and his penchant for the mystical and the romantic find little space in modern psychology. Now, summary. Jungian psychology, also known as analytical psychology, emphasizes on the development of the self and one's personal and collective unconsciousness. Jungian archetypes are universal patterns or predisposition that structures how all humans adapt to their world. Individual differences among persons are understood by Jungian in terms of interaction of attitude and functions. Jung demonstrated the integration of persons like progression, regression, and symbolization for interaction with one's environment. Small body of research has been generated by Jung theory dwelling into dynamics of personality development.